Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'm going to give you my financial opinions as we go. And if you guys need any help with anything, definitely check out finding-value.com. If you guys want further information about this commodity bull market that we are in, and that we're getting a pullback in too. So let's dive in. Let's take a look and see what's going on. We've got the DXY. Again, we're up against support. That's that white line running across here. We've come all the way back down to that support. A lot of the times you get a bullish signal here, which is a bullish piercing. Came all the way up, came all the way back, bouncing on support. And now we are starting to head higher. So the dollar is heading higher here in the short term. That means that there's demand for dollars, or our monetary, we'll say interest rates is tighter than other currencies. Now, looking at the 10-year yield, the 10-year yield was down today, down a little bit. It is coming back up. We've got a little wick at the bottom there. So yields were a little bit lower in terms of the 10-year, and also the 30-year was lower as well, down 1.4%. There we go. Is this a retest where we're going to go higher? What's going on here? We're going to have to wait and see where these yields eventually wind up here in the short term. To me, it looks like we're going higher with yields and the dollar. And that's going to be a headwind for certain investments. I mean, obviously, bonds will sell off if we get that type of reaction, if yields go up and bonds go down. And the dollar, I think, will go up as well. So bond prices today were up because yields were down, but we're just moving sideways for the most part with prices, bond prices. The TYX-TNX ratio moving sideways today, for the most part, down 0.12%. And looking at this, we've got a mixed bag because we have a stronger dollar with lower yields. That generally means that fear is in the market. That dollar is getting bid up at the same time that yields are going down, so people are running to bonds as well. So bonds and dollars, when people run to those, that's generally a sign of fear in the market. A lot of other assets during that time frame or during that market condition go down. So looking at the 2-year yield, that went down as well. So we saw the entire curve come back down a little bit from the 2-year, the 10-year, and the 30-year yields. But we do have little wicks on the bottom of these candlesticks. That generally means the momentum is heading back up. So it wasn't a strong sell-off day where it ended down towards its lows. It came back off those lows. So the CRB index down 1.6%. Most everything is down today from what I can tell. So yeah, we're pulling on back here. Do we have a further pullback in commodity prices? You know, you could definitely make the case, yes, here in the short term that we could pull back. We're seeing weakness in some of the commodities, and I'll show you which ones we're seeing. That does signify that we could see a potential further pullback, and maybe even recession is ahead of us. The CRB S&P 500, we're back around that 0.618, coming back to that 0.618 level perhaps. We could obviously grind sideways for a while with commodities and the S&P 500 moving relatively the same against each other. Gold slightly lower, down $15. It does look like we could pull back further. We could go all the way down to 1930 or even a little bit below that and still be all right from that perspective. Again, we are still have broken out of this trend line here on the closing prices. We're still above that. We could have a pullback before heading higher. It's a possibility. Silver getting ransacked today. It looks like we're doing a retest back to this trend line here. That trend line is 2375 or so. That's probably where we are going to pull back to. and then we'll have to reevaluate if that trend line is going to hold at that point. Platinum also selling off. This is a bearish engulfing that generally will work its way a little bit lower in the short term. So I would say short term wise, if those conditions of stronger dollar, lower yields persist, we could easily see this pullback for gold, silver, and platinum in the short term and probably do some retest type moves. XAU to gold ratio is also selling off quite strongly, so that is pulling back. We have not broken out of that trend line yet. We are still hanging out underneath it. So gold and silver mining companies, we are getting some reversal type patterns. We can look at that. This is GDX. So GDX is right up on that resistance level. We are getting some selling pressure here, and it is pulling back off that resistance level. So we may have a little bit more downside before trying to break back through that resistance line again. GDXJ also selling off some. Backing out to the weeklies, you can see that we do have a bearish engulfing where we could head back a little bit more in the short term before heading higher. This is another bearish engulfing there, just to show you that we did pull back after it. So we could pull back here in the short term. I don't know how far back we'll go, and we do have support kind of running through. Yeah, we've got support right underneath us, so we'll see if that support holds this line here. SILJ also selling off quite strongly today. We are back around that pattern. You can see we sold off here. We're getting another one here. So it looks to me like we could see further downside, but we'll see if this trend line holds, and that's basically what we're sitting on top of. We zoom out a little bit. That's what it looks like. Crude oil down 1.5%. Let's zoom in on it. We've got a little bit of selling pressure. So again, guys, like I thought, we've got these large selling pressure days. We came up and contracted. We have a little bit of a pullback. Now this is still open to move higher. It's still open to move higher. Why do I say that? Because the sellers didn't really push this thing lower with gigantic candlesticks. It's still somewhat controlled. It could get out of control, and we need to see what happens tomorrow. If they come in and they just blow this thing to the downside, then yeah, the sellers are in control, and we're going to see further downside. If we come in and they gap it lower in the morning, and we come back up and we put a nice big bullish engulfing or something like that, or a bullish piercing, some sort of candlestick, we could go higher. So it depends on what the market's going to put down here. And for the short term. Longer term, I'm bullish. Natural gas down slightly, again, just moving sideways. XOP, yeah, you know me, down 1%. Now, this is going to be interesting where we go. We've got a bullish engulfing, bullish piercing, and we're basically back to where we started. A lot of the times you go up, you hit your head, you come back. Now I want to see if we actually head higher here or if we break to the downside. We're at that decision point. If we break down, I think the likelihood of a recession is probably quite likely. And we could be in one. No one really knows until it's behind us, before they declare it. So that's where we're at there. And then OIH is in the same situation. We're basically back to where we pulled up from. And if we really sell off here and break to the downside with a big candlestick, then yeah, I think we could see lower prices. If we move and start to move higher here, get a good bounce, maybe we still have some juice left in the tank, so to speak. Sprott Uranium Trust down 2%. Is this a retest? Are we going to come back and do a little retest here? Very possible. Am I bullish, bearish on this? I'm still bullish until I see more bearish price action. It still looks all right. It doesn't look great. It's not like we're just ripping through here. But we could be doing a retest. URNM getting a little bit more selling pressure as well. It's not a total loss. We're up against resistance. It pulled back from that resistance to the downside. Now I want to see what happens next. Are the buyers going to come in and try to force it, and try to break through it, or are more selling pressure going to come and push this thing lower? I don't know the answer there. We're going to have to wait and see what the markets are going to show us. And again, this has a lot of variables. If the entire market sells off, well, it could drag uranium down with it. URNJ also selling off, but it's back at that support level. So we have a breakout, a retest, and we'll see what happens next. Are we going to head higher here? Very well could be. TAN slightly just moving sideways, but slightly lower. Again, it's holding in there right at support. We'll see where we go next. Now, COPX, this thing definitely looks like it wants to go lower. It gapped on down. It sold off. It's a pretty strong selling pressure day. This could definitely head lower in the short term for COPX, for copper. Copper is a measuring stick for the health of the economy. And we'll look at the price of copper itself, the futures prices, and we'll draw some conclusions there perhaps. Lithium still holding in this pattern. It's within the pattern, still looks good. Rare earth metals doing the same thing. It's just within the pattern, still looks good. S&P 500 just moving sideways today. Not much really to say there. And same with the NASDAQ, just moving sideways. It's actually positive given how the selling pressure kind of across the board sold a lot of stuff off. So it's positive for the S&P and U.S. Composite Index for moving sideways. Emerging markets moving sideways. This is just grinding. XHB also moving sideways up in this ascending wedge type pattern. Let's get a really good clean line in here instead of my kind of drawn in garbage lines. There's one there, and then we can kind of draw one up here as we're going up. Mu selling off a little bit today. Again, I think we're going to head lower in Mu back to this breakout area. Copper. Now, copper's down 4%, and we're breaking through this upper portion of the support level. What if we are going to have a recession? We would see copper do this. Yep, it's going to continue lower, and we've broken that to the downside. So we very well could be entering a slowdown in the markets. What does that mean for investments in commodities? Commodities will go down. They will pull back with the overall market and a recession. The problem is we don't know how bad this recession will be, how bad the pullback will be, even if it is going to be a recession. That's why Peter Lynch, Warren Buffett, all these guys, they say don't try to predict the stock market. What they do is ride through it. And if we get a pullback in the shares that we've got and they're undervalued already, they would say that they're going to continue to buy on the pullback. That's the way that they would view it. But right now, it does look a little bit weak and breaking down into support. And we are now in support, so we want to continue to see what happens. If this dive bombs lower, we could be seeing a pullback in the markets very quickly. Lumber, holding steady in terms of momentum. We were down 1.12%, but we're holding steady in terms of momentum. We've got iron ore back at that spot doing a retest type movement in that general location. We've got nickel down a little bit, and this could blow to the downside if copper and the fear in the market gets kicked up. These base metals can sell off. We're seeing aluminum sell off too. So fear is entering the market. We've got some selling pressure in copper, aluminum, and nickel, the base metals. And we'll see if these support lines hold up or not. Baltic Dry Index up 2.63%, still looking healthy to me to move higher, as weird as that seems. Newcastle coal contracts slightly lower. I do think we're going to come back to this area. Natural gas and coal are depressed right now, and they could get depressed even further. Ethereum also feeling the fear in the market, selling off a little bit, along with Bitcoin also selling off. But they still look all right. They're still above their support levels, and we'll see if those levels hold if they do trend down to those levels. But overall, guys, there's a lot of fear in the market. It's entering back into the market. Higher dollar, lower yields, people running to bonds, people running to the dollar. That's the mix that means that we could see further weakness in the markets. So that's what we've got for today. Thumb up for the content, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the website if you guys like. We do have a platinum question and answer session coming at 7 a.m. on Saturday. Love to hear your guys' opinions and questions. We'll see you there. This is Finding Value.